It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Cork the
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom. From movies, comics, TV shows, video games, we've got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. And Court, man, John Wick.
John Wick.
He's back.
Baba Yaga.
He's thinking he's back.
He is back. He's back and badder than ever.
Who could have seen this coming, that this movie has turned into this
I know.
This franchise.
I was just watching the first one last week, and I was just like, it is night and day in between, this idea of indie versus, big budget. It's just completely polar opposites, but they're not, though, because it still has the same energy as this, pretty cool action franchise. I've said it before here. In my opinion, in Western culture, it's kind of, we went through, it's your 80s, 90s action. So it's your, your 60s, 70s action, your James Bonds, all those types. And then you get your neo-noirs, had decent action in them. And then you get into the 80s, 90s, especially the 90s are big, loud action. And then it was Jason Bourne. And I feel like in America, Jason Bourne action was the standard, shaky cam, fast pace. You can't really see a lot, but something's going on. And then, you get some pretty good action movies in between here and there from different directors. But then 2014 hits and John Wick comes out and action feels like maybe we should do hand to hand. Maybe we should take, notes from Eastern, Hero, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, all those types of movies. Maybe we should take some influence from there. And then you get the John Wick series. So some great stunt choreography. I know the John Wick creators, stunt coordinators are now they're royalty in Hollywood. That's who you get in America if you need something well done too. So it's just cool to see where we've come, and 4 movies in, and no spoilers just yet, but possibly in terms of the not the movie itself, but the action in the movie, one of the best action movies possibly ever. The action inside of the movie. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of quietly made its way to a 4th movie. Mm-hmm. Typically when you get to a 4th movie in a franchise, people are this thing again. Yeah. But John Wick 4 is coming out and people are psyched about it. Yeah, people are John Wick 4, ready for it. The trailers did a good job of setting up kind of, the story. It's nothing crazy. It's simple. No. That the story is not the most important thing. It is, and it's cool. And I think, Keanu Reeves plays stoicism well, and that's what you probably want Keanu Reeves to do. You don't need him to do a lot of acting, you just need him to play stoic, and he owns it so incredibly well, and hats off to him for action. And you love action. You love the fact that what we can create with stunt coordinators, stunt actors, on-set teams, directors, cinematography, what you're able to create and what the actors can put themselves through. And I know Keanu Reeves said, I think he did 90% of the action. You can tell, when we talk about things paying off, if, it needed to be, because this movie was pushed back, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. I just love when you watch a movie and people were dedicated, and this wasn't just something that was thrown to us. It was something that was worked on and people are proud of. Those are the best types of movies, and you can tell the action in this one was that and then some. Yeah, there's one thing in particular, and we'll talk about it more in depth, but it was something that you brought up in the Ant-Man Quantumania review in the final confrontation between Kang and Ant-Man that I couldn't get out of my head while I was watching this movie, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the movie. So yeah, this is, in case you couldn't tell, the first 4 minutes of this is going to be an episode about John Wick Chapter 4, so we'll get to that, and we'll talk, the reception, the numbers, non-spoilers, spoilers, our thoughts, and all that good stuff. But first, we do have some news, starting with, unfortunately, some really, really awful news coming over the weekend. So Jonathan Majors was arrested for a domestic assault situation, and the details are still kind of out there, still kind of shaky at best. There was an incident involving a woman that involved assault, strangulation. He was jailed, and all that stuff is going to be pending, so obviously we don't want to speculate on the legal stuff, but just as 2 people that were ranting and raving about his talent and the type of year that we felt he was due for.
I mean, all that stuff is secondary compared to this. I mean, if indeed what has come out is true, and I know a lot of people have come out since and said, like, this is something that has kind of always been in him, which is extremely troubling. So, I mean, if he's indeed this person, then, I mean, he may be a great actor, but he deserves everything that's coming to him if that's the type of person he ends up being.
It's simple as that. I mean, if this may be true, I mean, first and foremost, I hope the woman's okay. That's the number one thing. Who cares about a cinematic universe? Who cares about anything like that? These situations are serious. Like, at the end of the day, that's the precedence is real life. That's the real life stuff that goes on. So, like you said, I mean, you said it best. If it's true and all these things happen to be true, like, obviously you don't want it to be true because we were very fond of this guy. Just like, you know, you watch, you know, interviews that he does, he seems like a very intelligent person, very, you know, life-centric person, somebody that was, you know, for all intensive purposes, like, on the rise, had a movie that could potentially could win him an Oscar depending on what the situation plays out for next year. So, and this is all before he turns 35. But if this situation is true, you said it best, then, you know, good actor, but inexcusable behavior, inexcusable and horrible behavior.
Yeah, and I mean the trickiest things of all with domestic violence situations are, I know people have said that this woman is recanting her statements. I mean, that's all typical behavior in domestic violence cases where, you know, especially involving a romantic partner,
partner and a celebrity as well. That can even double down on that situation.
You know, they possibly converse after the situation unfolds. It's all part of domestic violence manipulative behavior where they convince you, like, it'll never happen again, blah, 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 blah. So her recanting or whatever, retracting, does not necessarily mean this didn't take place. It just means, you know, it's two people that are dealing with a situation, and, you know, hopefully it's not what it was reported to be, and things can just go on, but it's just impossible to say at this point. It's just I felt we should talk about it because, like, you know, we've been very high on him and very complimentary of him, and, you know, needs to be said that if he is guilty of these things, that he needs to be held accountable, and his career is far from the most important thing in this situation. Right. So if this is ultimately his undoing, then he's got no one to blame but himself. And that's really it. I mean, we're not going to speculate on the Marvel stuff or anything like that. It just doesn't feel appropriate at this time. I mean, if things happen and Marvel makes a decision or whoever makes a decision, we'll talk about it then. But for now, just nothing to speculate in that regard. But on to, coincidentally enough, some Marvel news. So I think this is something you and I both kind of predicted in terms of Captain America New World Order, that Liv Tyler is indeed returning as Betty Ross.
Yeah, yep. So I got two pieces about this. Piece number one that I'm thinking about is cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we both kind of thought this could potentially happen.
I wonder if Universal's backing down a bit, but I mean, it's rights. Universal's much more lenient on the rights thing than Sony is, so they don't really have to worry about it. However, they do still own the rights, but my second point in that, this is the one I'm extremely nervous about. So cool, Liv Tyler's back, thank God.
We're going to get back to this conversation.
Yeah. Is this a Captain America movie anymore? Or is this going to be a pseudo, you know, Hulk movie trapped inside of a Hulk story trapped inside of a Captain? Like, this could be a pretty cool amalgamation story to get kind of, you know, Mark Ruffalo ready for the event where Universal reverts the rights back and then he gets his own solo project, whatever that might be. I know the rumors that were floating around was that they were going to do a World War Hulk Disney Plus, like, super high budget four-part series. Who knows if that's true, false, and who knows besides the people up top. However, you know, I don't know a better way to say this than that. I feel for Anthony Mackie a bit in the way that, like, is...
Yeah, we've had this conversation before.
Everything about this movie that's come out has been, like... Hulk-related, Thunderbolts-related, Eternals-related. Like, what's any of this got to do with... I mean, the only thing that this got to do in this... And listen, the super cool situation could be, like, if you inverse this, then it could be, like... This is all happening so that Captain America can form a team to fight all of this. But again, maybe, and she could, and we're saying all this, she might only be in this movie for like 10 minutes. We don't know. And it could be just like small cameo, just place her back in the universe, have Mark Ruffalo maybe see her and be like, hey, Bruce, you look different. You look a little different, but no big deal. But yeah, a little nervous for Anthony Mackie, and kind of, I don't know how that's going to be perceived, because I feel like, you know, the way fan theories run, then after this movie comes out, people might only talk about Hulk stuff, and we'll see, or X-Men stuff, if this could be Genosha in the future, laying the seeds for that. But on a positive note, glad Liv Tyler's back. She might be Red She-Hulk. We'll see. Here I go. I just said it, and then here I go on the same tangent.
Yeah, I think you nailed both points on the head perfectly. Like, it's cool. You know, it's obviously speaks to the depth of the MCU lore that they can do something like this. Obviously, we just saw it with Natalie Portman most recently in Thor: Love and Thunder, where they kind of took her off ice, so to speak, and brought that character back. So that is cool. But yeah, I share your concerns, and you know, it's the same question I had, you know, when the whole Captain America 4 thing was kind of starting, and the plot started kind of coming out, and all these different moving parts were involved. And the point I kept going back to was like, would they have done this to Chris Evans? Like, I mean, those first three Captain America movies are so tight,
and even the quote unquote Avengers 2.5, the third act of that movie divulged right back into a Captain America movie, and it showed how tightly woven that Steve Rogers and Tony Stark's destinies are to each other, even though, you know, he might not believe it. But what did that revert right back to? The idea of like what the shield was, and the you know, what's the word? Why can't I think of the word of God, of Captain America's morality, his morality between, like, amongst himself, like. That's what that movie dealt with when going back to all those things. Should you protect your friend, or should we, you know, and that's a bigger theme that played into, like, should we, you know, sign this accord, or should we just, you know, stay vigilant and be able to do things ourselves? And he took that decision, you know, upon himself. So.
Yeah, and we talked about it when we talked about the Phase 6, the Phase 5 retrospective that we did, that Sam should be further along at this point in terms of his character development, with as many things as that character's been in, and as long as he's been around, he should be further along. And I still don't feel like they're there yet. Yeah. And I'm not sure if this movie, which should be kind of the conduit for that, I'm not sure if it's going to be that.
I was excited. Remember when it got announced? I was excited because I thought
they announced it right off the back of the day of the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And I was just like, oh, cool. So he's going to get his own Falcon, which is pretty cool. He'll be Captain America. I think we talked about, like, I thought he was going to, you know, form a team. I thought that's what this movie was going to be about. They'll give him a threat and he'll form a team. Maybe you do like a Serpent Society thing. I know that was the original plan for Captain America 3. So you do something like that. But what this movie seems more like now is like what I think this movie could be too is he forms that Avengers team. That Avengers team, either A isn't sanctioned or B fails, and then they send the Thunderbolts in, because the Thunderbolts is the last movie of Phase 5, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's what this movie could look like. There's just a lot of moving parts. The Hulk thing is huge, because I don't know if She-Hulk's in this movie, but I mean, Red Hulk's going to be in this movie. They're going to be hunting for adamantium, which is awesome in all sorts of ways. Yeah. But it just feels very... I mean, we could be running with this too far, too. This could just be like, all right, well, General Ross, which is fine that he's in this movie, and then his daughter's just in this movie. It could be simple as that.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I'm at the point where, like, I don't want to see him fail in his first kind of... Like, he's been Captain America for too long now and has not done anything.
He's done that Disney cruise thing.
Yeah, I just don't want to see him, because that's not a good introduction to, like, him being Captain America, as if he forms the new Avengers and they screw up. Like, I don't want to see that. Like,
the backlash is going to be like,
yeah, I want to see him horrible. I want to see him be triumphant. I want him to take what the last half of the last episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier did, and you know, broaden that. Like, that's what I want to see from this movie. And just based on all the details, I'm not sure if that's what we're going to get. And it just makes me really nervous. Moving on to some cooler news. So, spoilers for the latest episode of The Mandalorian, because we're going to talk about that. So, Ahmed Best is back in the Star Wars universe. He appeared in the flashback sequence we got, again, more of the Order 66 when Grogu, how that all took place. And he was rescued by a Jedi, and it was a kick-ass dual-wielding Jedi
Yeah.
Master, played by Ahmed Best. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, was the mocap actor and voice actor for Jar Jar Binks in The Phantom Menace and subsequent sequels. And for those of you who don't know, his story was really, really driven to a dark place in his life because of the backlash that character got. And, you know, he talked about suicide, and he was just in a really bad place. And, you know, those prequel movies are ripe for that. Jake Lloyd is another great example who kind of had his career derailed at such a young age because of the backlash to that movie and the backlash of the Star Wars fans. I mean, we saw it most recently probably with Kelly Marie Tran coming off of the sequel movies. And so it was cool that he was willing to come back and do something different, and B, just that he got to do this because I know a lot of people have called it like his redemption, but he's not redeeming himself for anything. He was the one that was done hard by the fan base, so he's earned it, if more than anything. He endured, and he's come off the back of it. I know he said like he would love to come back as this character and do more things, and I think maybe they should absolutely do that if they want to do a little mini series about this character and let him just do some Jedi adventures. I think that would be pretty cool. I mean, it was definitely a great stylistic choice to make him have these dual wielding lightsabers and really give him kind of an identity even in such a short amount of screen time. So I think you can definitely expand upon that character if you so wanted to.
Very triumphant. And it's one of those situations where at the end of the day, it just makes you feel good. Like, I was like an extremely feel-good moment because, you know, it takes so much in life to fight through that type of anguish and pain, and for him to kind of come out back on top and, you know, be that well received when that happens. Like, you're the person that saved like the most beloved character right now in Star Wars. It's got to make you feel good. So I'm glad he's back, and I'm glad he's feeling comfortable enough to not only act but be in the Star Wars universe. That's all types of awesome.
Yeah, it's totally great. It was super cool. It was one of those things where like we've talked about the Mandalorian and how they do those kind of nostalgia moments and those like surprises really great. And I think this is a perfect example of that. They took this actor who obviously, maybe even the casual Star Wars audience doesn't even know his history with the franchise, but people like us, people, that
the
know
nerds.
The nerds, they know who he is and probably got a great reaction when he showed up on screen and came across very heroically and just a very cool moment that I really appreciated. And then what else did I have? So we got a trailer for Power Rangers Once and Always, hitting Netflix on April 19th. Man.
Yep. We don't even need to say too much. It's one of it hit you right in the feels. It hit you right in the nostalgia, especially, after the tragic passing of Jason David Frank. It was like, it felt good just seeing them all together again. I know that the Green Ranger was in bits of the trailer. I don't know if it's in flashback sequences. I'm assuming that's it. I don't know if he filmed for this movie.
I don't believe he did.
Okay. Obviously I have no shadow of doubt they're gonna pay massive homage to him because, for all intents and purposes, Jason David Frank kept Power Rangers I don't think you get out for America. I don't think you get out of season 1 or season 3 maybe of Power Rangers without Jason David Frank being in that franchise. He is one of the single most recognizable protagonists in my opinion in TV, kids TV, whatever you want to call it. The Green Ranger is a staple of the 90s and staple of kids action too. And Jason David Frank, you don't get that without him. So
yeah, and the trailer had the look and feel of the Mighty Morphin TV show. It wasn't this big boom of CGI
or cinematography.
No, it was very much in the vein of the TV show.
Yep, very simple, and like you said, very very good callback, and it felt right.
Yeah,
it felt right.
So the trailer, the movie seems to be particularly focused around Zach and Billy, so Walter Emmanuel Jones and David Yost.
I'm glad David Yost is back. I never thought he would even think about. So I wonder if that might be reactionary, or maybe it's about time. And it's like fitting that we talk about Ahmed Best, and it's glad that these franchises are evolving beyond the toxicity that could have happened before, and that we get to the modern age and they're comfortable and like that. And that's the great thing about like art and stuff like this. I mean, Power Rangers art, I guess maybe, but you know what I mean, like entertainment media. Like one of the good pieces of it is that they live on for a while. If it's good or if it's memorable, it'll live on, and it lives on with different fans. So different fans aren't thinking about this, or the younger people that like for the Ahmed Best situation, like they weren't thinking about Jar Jar Binks when they watched the episode. But it's good that he's back and had to face all that. Same thing for David Yost. I'm glad that he's able to come back, and I'm super glad he's able to go with his OGs, and I hope this is a great homage to Jason David Frank, and just a fun, like for the 90s babies, like just a fun, great romp of Power Ranger greatness.
Yeah, and also Rita Repulsa's back. She's got a new body.
Yep.
It's classic kind of a little bit darker kind of undertones.
Sure.
Because the whole conceit of the trailer is that Rita Repulsa has returned in a new body, a android looking body.
She called the Machine Empire. She said, "I need one of the bodies you got."
Yeah, she's doing the Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. She's Mecha Rita now, and her goal is to go back in time and kill the Power Rangers before they become Rangers. There's a kind of a illusion that she killed Trini. So obviously Toy Trang passed away tragically many years ago. So they're going with her daughter is in this. Trini's daughter, obviously, and that's going to be the whole plot is the Rangers trying to stop Rita Repulsa. What else could you ask for? And then the last bit of news that I didn't write down, but I just remembered to talk about. So there is a AAA gaming studio that has yet to be revealed that is developing a Ninja Turtles Last Ronin video game in the style of God of War, in the vein of God of War. For those of you who don't know that plot line of that book, I'm not going to spoil it entirely, but it's from the original creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and the basically conceit is all the Ninja Turtles have been killed by Shredder except for one, and that one takes up the mantle of the Last Ronin and goes on like a revenge tour. And it's a very heavy book. It's a very mature book. People who enjoy the light and fun Ninja Turtles, it's definitely a deviation from that. But when I first heard this, that they're developing a third-person action game based on this, that got me super excited. Especially
after the Last Ronin comic came out, too. Like, this whole concept is just phenomenal for a game, like a darker Ninja Turtle story. Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't played, that follows Michelangelo, right? That follows Michael. And I love the fact that they chose him. Like, it makes the most sense that like the quote unquote most immature one out of all of them is the one that is to succeed all of them. It's just something that's poetic about that, in my opinion, that like he has to grow up essentially in that situation too. So I think that'll play for a really good game. Again, hitting on that 90s nostalgia for all the 90s babies, and just maybe putting together a really cool combative game for the Ninja Turtles. I think that's awesome.
Michelangelo, always known as the most physically gifted among the Ninja
He's
Turtles.
The kid. Like, he's the kid that's too young to know his own potential yet. And then obviously in the Last Ronin, he's put in a situation where he needs to realize his potential. So
yeah.
Crap! We have new piece of news.
Oh, breaking news!
Yeah, breaking news. Deadpool 3 Succession's Matthew McFadden has just joined Deadpool 3 in a mystery role. So who that could be? Who knows?
The classic mystery role.
Do you want me to do the thing where I give you? It could be just military guy 1, or it could be a big character. You want me to do it?
Yeah.
So it could be military guy 1 or business guy 1, or I don't know why my brain went to this. What if it's Mr. Sinister?
Oh.
Matthew McFadden has that. He's got that Mr. Sinister feel.
Wasn't there someone cast in this movie a while ago? A woman that people were like, maybe a Mrs. Sinister.
Miss Sinister?
I forget who it was, but yeah, that's a good guess. I mean, with any of these things, like...
Yeah, who knows?
Anytime they cast someone... It's my favorite bit that Marvel does. When they're like, we cast notable actor to be in a mystery role.
And then they're in the movie for like 10 minutes.
And then they're in the movie. Like, Bill Murray's probably the funniest example of that, right? Or one of the funniest examples.
Sure, yeah.
Like, Bill Murray's an Ant-Man, and everyone was
Who's
like,
he
whoa!
playing? Right.
And he was nothing.
He was nothing.
He was nothing in that movie. So, yeah, you're right. Especially in Deadpool. Like,
Yeah.
he could literally be a throwaway.
And not only in Deadpool, but in the movie that's going to bridge the Fox universe and the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Like, this guy can be anybody.
He could be absolutely anybody. He could be a total throwaway. But, cool. I mean, you know, I think that movie's going to be really, really fun.
Me too. Oh, me too.
Let's talk about John Wick, man.
Let's talk about Jonathan. Let's talk about Baba Yaga.
Yeah, so John Wick Chapter 4, they got away. They did a subtitle in one, and then they're like, we're done with subtitles.
Yeah, yep.
So they did Parabellum, and then they're like, we're going back to chapters. Chapter 4, John Wick, and man, people are really loving this movie.
Yeah, it's critically being received well.
We finally got rid of the variants. There's no variants.
No variants.
It's critically well received. Viewers are loving it. Not surprising. I mean, this is, you know, it's Keanu Reeves, man. He has that thing where people are just like, I like seeing this guy in things.
And like I said about the story, like I'll double down on it. That's where you want to leave Keanu Reeves' nexus is stoicism. Like, leave him saying the smallest he can, and let him just walk around and do it. Like, that's it. That's all you have to do. And they understand it so well. This franchise is really like it's evolved, which is impressive too. And like I said, John Wick feels very small, indie way, action, cool, and then John Wick 4 is like top bill budget actors throwing everywhere. These top Asian actors are coming in here with all their experience too, and these teams are being put together for all the action sequences. It's awesome. It's a perfect amalgamation of action. And I know we want to talk about this movie. We might talk about, you know, some action overall, some of our favorite action movies, stuff like that. So this plot will take us maybe 5 minutes to summarize, and then we can maybe go through the categories.
Yeah. Before that, I want to talk about a little bit about the box office, because it's exactly what you want as a movie studio. They're on the curve, right? Mm-hmm. So the first one, obviously lower budget, but still made a decent amount of money
for a first one. That nobody knew what this was like. Nobody knew the potential.
This movie was going to be basically a straight to DVD movie. The first one, like it's kind of crazy. And then, you know, that got good word of mouth. Second one got released, you know, made a little bit more money. Mm-hmm. Third one came out to a pretty substantial amount of fanfare. You see the cast list kind of expand. Ruby Rose is in the third one, so I mean,
Halle Berry,
yeah. So now I would say like by the third one, you're in like, okay, we're in like a John Wick.
It's like one of those things where it's like a non-fandom movie, and people are like, "Oh shoot, John Wick's coming out. We got to go see that."
He's entered like the pop culture kind of zeitgeist.
Right. He's like one of the most recognizable like movie secret agent assassins of all time now.
Yeah. You know, and then this one, you know, like I said, right on that curve, man. It had the biggest budget, but also had the biggest return. Yep. So it's making a ton of money. It made almost $75 million over the opening weekend. For comparison, Shazam did not make that.
Come on, man.
So it's crushing it. I mean, this is exactly what you want. We talk all the time about these movie studios not understanding how to build a cinematic universe. These guys are doing it. Yep. This is exactly how you want to do it.
Yep. And I want to bridge budget with ROI, your return on investment. And what you get out of your budget is you get like I said, the action in this movie, one of the greatest curated American action movies of all time. Like, I don't like to say like action movies ever, because if you go look in the East, you're talking like from the inception of movies to now, like just par for the course. They're the platinum standard, but this movie holds up incredibly well, and it goes down to a couple factors. It goes down to your director, and then it goes down to your stunt team, your action coordinators, all that stuff, and then it goes down to your personnel, you know, in front of the camera. So this movie brought in Donnie Yen for a major role, and he's just phenomenal.
He's Donnie Yen. He's great.
Exactly. Like, that's what I think we'll say about him. He's Donnie Yen. He's Donnie Yen. Hiroyuki Sanada. Like that. Like you're getting legends in this movie. And it shows too. We ready for spoilers?
Yeah. I mean, let's just, you know, overarching just thoughts. It's great. It's really great. It's long. I mean, it is long. It's almost 3 hours, but in my estimation, you didn't really feel it. I think they did a great job. Whereas I think Parabellum was a little relentless with the action. I think this did a good job of sectioning off, its big action sequences with like a little bit of a downturn and then crescendo back into a big action sequence. I think across a nearly 3 hour movie, I think this movie handled it really, really well. And that just goes back to what you said about the hands that are in this movie. I mean, Chad Stahelski, who directed this, has a background in stunt work. Like, that's how he got into the industry in the first place. So
it's like the same concept of like having like Neil Gaiman on the set of, like, helping them with Sandman. Like, that's how I feel about that. Like, the guy that already knows the thing, maybe he should help make the actual thing. Does that make the most sense? So, you could tell there's so much dedication to the craft from Keanu, from Donnie, from everybody around here. But I mean, behind the camera, from their director too. I mean, taking these choices, the movie looks good too. Like, the movie itself, and a lot of times in action movies, it's just the action that's making the movie look good. The movie itself looks pretty good. There's a couple, noticeable CGI backgrounds, but like I think you only see it in like the first 15 and the last 30. But like that middle portion, like they were on location or something, or the studio or the sets they were building were just immaculate for that middle piece.
Yeah, and it again, to your point about the cast, you're getting these very physical actors in these roles. When you're talking about Keanu Reeves, when you're talking about Donnie Yen, when you're talking about Hiroyuki Sanada, when you're talking about Scott Adkins is in this movie, who's more stunt actor than he is regular actor. You're talking about Marco Zaror, who's in this, who's a martial artist and an actor. So that's what this movie is built for. It's built for actors who love to get their hands dirty, love to be in on the action themselves, because the directing work and the camera work is very reliant on a minimal amount of cuts.
Yeah.
And so you need to have the actors kind of doing their own stunts. And, it's cool that, this franchise has leaned into that and is casting actors that are comfortable doing their own stunt work. And it pays off in a tremendous amount. So yeah, we can jump right in. We can talk about some spoilery bits. So the plot of this movie is pretty simple. John Wick he's looking for a way out. He's still looking for a way out.
It takes place literally where 3 leaves off.
Yeah.
You just hear the boom of the wood, and he's John Wick's getting his punches in, and then, are you ready, John? Yeah. And it's on. It's just on after that movie. Yeah. And then you just see John in the desert on a horse, just shooting a gun, like big John Wick energy. Kills all those guys on horseback, and then he gets to the new elder, and the elder's it's the same elder, right?
I think it's the same elder, but a different actor.
Right, okay, yeah. And he's just like, John, you can't kill me. That's not going to change anything. You die when you leave here. And then, boom!
Yep. Yeah, man,
He said, what did you come here for, John? To kill you.
And he does.
And then he does. Because he doesn't, because one thing about John Wick, he doesn't play these games. He doesn't have time.
Nope. And then, we cut to the famous Continental of New York. Winston's still kicking around.
Yeah, but he's in trouble. He's in big duty.
Yeah, he's in trouble because Bill Skarsgård is on the scene.
Yeah, Bill Skarsgård. He's there. Pennywise says, "Hey, bro, I'm the new magistrate." So
Marquis Vincent de Gramont, the powerful.
Oh, the new Marquis.
Yeah, the new Marquis comes on the scene, and he confronts Winston, and he's like, look what you've allowed to happen.
Yeah, like you broke our rule, so now you know what? New management in town. So you broke our rule, so I'm gonna break every rule now. Don't matter. You know what? Actually, we're gonna destroy your hotel because you allowed one of the rules. The main rule of the Assassin's Hotel is there's no assassinations on campus. And look what you did. You let John Wick kill heaps of guys here. So
and John Wick's still out there.
And then another boom, and then the whole hotel blows up. And I was like, wow, what a way to start 4.
What a way to level the playing field.
And set up your main villain of this guy might have just infinite non-punch power, which is the best. In my opinion, it's one of the best ways to go against physical. It's the Lex Luthor Superman thing. If you can't hand-to-hand beat the guy, you need to outsmart the guy or put him in a situation where his strength or his skill set won't help anything.
So the whole conceit of this movie is basically the Marquis is trying to kill John Wick.
Yep, and he any means necessary. That's like the whole thing. It's like whatever he needs, he gets, and that's pretty much it. And then John goes to Osaka, the Osaka hotel, and he's just like
run by Hiroyuki Sanada.
yes. And his daughter Akira, she's there, and she basically plays the same role that the late Lance Reddick plays at his hotel, and that's his daughter in the movie. And and then it's on, and then it is on.
Yeah,
he's just like, all right. She's just like, something's a brewing. All these guys in silver suits are pulling up. I think something's brewing.
Yeah, and Bill Skarsgård has hired Donnie Yen, who has a history with John Wick.
Yep. Everybody has a history.
Everybody has a history with John Wick.
He's Baba Yaga,
and he's like, "You like your daughter, right?" And Donnie Yen's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Kill John Wick, and you and your daughter."
I love the sequence too because he's blind in the movie. That's a big piece. They just watched Rogue One, and they were like, "Oh,
typical Donnie Yen playing a blind martial artist."
So he's reading the card. He's doing the.
He's what?
I mean, he's putting his hand over the card, and then I love the movie when it does the editing where it puts the words on the screen, and it's just he doesn't even get full way through the J in Wick, and he's just like, ooh.
But he agrees reluctantly, and they have a big
reluctant antagonist turned protagonist story. Simple.
All the meanwhile, we have Shabir Anderson as a tracker. He's got a dog.
Yeah. I think that guy's got a bright future in whatever he wants to do. He's pretty adaptive to the situation. I've seen him in something. I just can't put my finger on it right now, but we'll look as we classically do while we're in here too. But he's pretty cool in here. His role is, what's his role? Is he also reluctant antagonist, but he's not reluctant.
He's not really reluctant.
He's ulterior.
He's guy trying to get his foot in the door
right.
with the assassin.
It's like late in franchise. He's Rebecca Ferguson in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, he wants to get in. He wants to get in the crew basically. He wants to be in the Assassin's Club.
Right.
So he's it's typical.
He's the guy that gets the spin-off if something happens to John Wick in this movie, because
what better way to establish your assassin street cred than to track down John Wick
and be like a credible threat to John Wick.
Well, originally not kill him. He just wants to track him down and be like, I found John Wick, and then the Marquis is like, what if you killed John Wick? And he's like,
yeah. Have you seen the heaps of guys that he killed?
And then the Marquis puts a knife through his hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something about the Marquis. He don't play these games either. I love in this. See, that's the thing. Nobody plays these games in any of these movies.
No.
And especially this one. Nobody's had time for these games.
Yeah. So we go back to Osaka and.
It's the beginning of the first action sequence in the movie.
They do the thing again. Like it's the same like,
like when you're setting the stage for something and then the thing happens, like you could feel it brewing.
Yeah.
And like this is one of the best examples of feeling the action brew until it hits the point. And like the guys are walking in the room.
Well, this is why the beginning scene at the New York Continental is so important because those guys roll in. It's a very similar scene unfolds, and you're like, oh, they're about to do the same thing.
And like, you know what's even better? Like the stakes are immediately put there too because they destroyed the New York Continental. So once you get to the Osaka Continental, like this place can just blow at any moment too. So whatever they need to get done.
But unfortunately for them, Sanada-san is built different.
And so is his daughter. His daughter's an issue. So
yeah, they get there.
The lights turn off. And you're like, this is the John Wick franchise.
And I love, and this is, we'll talk about, obviously we're going to talk about Chad Stahelski and Ghost of Tsushima.
How can we not?
At the end of this. But I love the idea that the Osaka Continental guys are like old school samurai guys. Yep. Like they just use swords and bows and arrows.
Yeah, like
and knives.
All the silver suit guys are just, they all have guns and stuff and like bulletproof suits, and then they pull up and they just like right above, like on like the scaffolding above, they're just like, all right, well, bow's trained, so you guys make a move. And then the first bow leaves, I'm like, oh, this is cinema.
Yeah, this is
action cinema at its finest.
And it's just on, and then
just one takes all over the place, long fights, like credible action. Like it's already in a franchise that was incredible for its hand-to-hand action, and then it just quadruples down on it, and just
John Wick's fighting on the rooftop.
Yeah, but you see John Wick's up there, and then him and his daughter,
with Kyoji's daughter. Yep,
and then him and Akira go down, and then it is on, it's on.
And then Donnie Yen shows up. I'm the one who knocks.
So cool. He's got a fresh haircut, and just a great. What can you say? A great Donnie Yen action sequence in the kitchen. The best part about Donnie Yen, it's the nonchalantness of the situation, like that he's just better than everybody else at what he does.
It's a great character establishment of like, oh, this guy is serious business.
obviously it was revolutionized way before Wes Anderson, but a great interview Wes Anderson talked about is like how you introduce a character and you give them something, like you give them a physical something, so at least the audience can be like, all right, this person has a discernible thing that I will recognize them for. So obviously it's beyond him being blind. It's just like he's eating the soup, like he's like drinking the broth from the soup, like right before. He's just like, can you pay attention, man? And he's just like, all right. And then he hits him with the 8-piece punch, and I'm like, oh
yeah. I mean, if anyone's ever seen the Yip Man films, like this is straight old school Yip Man Donnie Yen. Like he does the rapid fire punch, like the Wing Chun rapid fire punch that you talked about, and that's what I love about. It's my favorite thing about these movies. In particular, this one, like they know what they're built upon. So like casting Donnie Yen, like obviously we're gonna do a Yip Man sequence with Donnie Yen. Like it pays it backward to all the things that came before it, which I really appreciate.
And then Hiroyuki Sanada, obviously we're gonna do some samurai sequence. Like obviously these things are gonna happen.
Exactly, that's exactly what we get.
And it's just such an homage, in my opinion, to just like I said earlier, just Eastern cinema and the Eastern action and why it's so revolutionary and why it's like so critical to the DNA of what makes movies too, is you don't get a lot of action without Eastern cinema, so thank God you have these two titans in there too. So
and then we get an old
Is Michelle Yeoh gonna be in the next one?
Hopefully.
I thought as soon as I left, I was like, what if Michelle Yeoh plays Akira's mother?
That'd be awesome.
Or it could be Donnie Yen's what's it called? Could be or his wife to the daughter. Who knows?
And and then we get an old school samurai showdown between Donnie Yen's Kane.
What happens first is so he killed
Wick fights
Chidi, or is it Chidi, or what's the main silver the number one to the marquee. It is Chidi, which is he's great. Very just main number one brute type.
Yeah.
Like it's like the NPC fighters and then like the main, the
sub boss.
Yeah, the sub boss in there. He's got hands. You could tell he's just some like sort of like Spanish, just like brute killer, and then it's just on like their sequence goes on for a little longer, but John Wick learned the Black Widow leg wrap, and he
goes that quite a bit.
I'm not gonna be surprised if they make a John Wick video game.
I could have sworn they were doing one. I just can't remember.
That's like a button I would spam. I would spam that a million times. Like he just spams that, just hitting circle as much as he can. So
we get that. We get the first confrontation between Kane and John Wick, which is great.
It's like the sequences are just breathtaking. Like
also like in this weird assassination universe where there's a blonde man who can kill people, Donnie Yen believably blonde.
Yeah, like actually, like, and it's subtlety, and this is good physical act. Like acting,
like he's like stumbling around.
Yeah, acting is not just dialogue. Like acting is so much more than that. And like I use Michael B. Jordan a lot for this case of like acting's not just line delivery. Acting's a physical thing too, and it's also spatial awareness too. So just this idea that like I love how he puts the sensors around
the doorbells.
They just make a doorbell alarm, and he's like, and then it's just the simplicity of like somebody hands him like something on a plate. And then, like, he's feeling around to find it, too. Like...
Or even when he gets in the gunfight with John.
Yeah. He doesn't even know that John's not dead.
Yeah, he goes, "Are you dead? You dead, John?"
And he hears him, like, accidentally crack the glass. He's like, shoot.
And then he misses.
Like, he misses. So.
Quick as a whip with that cane, man.
Yep.
He's called Cane for a reason.
Well, I mean, it's also his samurai sword, so...
He's quick with that thing. But we don't see him reveal it as a samurai sword until later.
Right.
But yeah, and then after that, he fights Kyoji, and then a classic. Again, got my Ghost of Tsushima juices flowing when they do the showdown between Kyoji and Kane. It's very, very sad, very tragic.
Man, it's so... I love the swiftness of which he kills him. Like, it's not some big, like, stab in the heart, music crest plays. It's like... You're dead.
Very subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. Like you're gone. Like this is this universe. Like,
and then Akira, without saying so many words, is like
set up the sequel,
planning her revenge.
Yeah, the sequel's been made for this.
Yeah, and then the fallout of that is essentially John Wick's like, okay, that's it. Who do I have to kill? Basically, so he confronts Winston, and John Wick's like, what's going on here? What is this? And he's like, John, you shook the legs of the table.
Yep.
You should have known this was coming, John. You've done this. And John Wick's like, whatever, man.
You knew this was coming, Pete.
Who do I have to kill, Winston? He's like, it's not...
You have to kill everybody.
He's like, that's not the point.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, it's almost like you have consequences for your actions, John.
He's like, but now, Akira alludes to it, and now Winston's alluding to it, like, you are screwing this up for everybody by you just existing. And John's like, all right, who do I have to kill? He's like, fine, you have to kill Bill Skarsgård. And he's like, I don't know who that is. He's like, oh, wait. His name is the Marquis. The Marquis. You gotta kill the Marquis.
I love that John he does not care what name, what title. It doesn't not matter. Like, okay. He's like, yeah.
And then Winston's like, even if you kill him, they're just gonna replace him with another guy. That's one of the
main themes of this. Like, can you really escape this if you want to? Like, there is no escape from, like, the only escape is death. Like, either, that's what the main theme is.
But then Winston goes, unless.
There's a sacred rule.
He opens the lore book.
Yeah, the John Wick lore book. If you didn't think these movies had major lore, now there was minor lore in the last. There's major lore in this.
He opens up the John Wick lore book and he's like, it says here if you duel a member of the table in an honorable thing, in a duel, old-fashioned honor duel, you can get whatever you want, and that implies your freedom, John. Mm-hmm. You can do that. And John's like, but that's a myth. That's not real. And he's like, it is real. And you have to be a member of a family.
Yeah, you need to go reconcile, bud.
With the Russians.
With the Russians. You got to go who are in Germany?
Yeah, or the Germans. I don't know. Yeah, so side quest number 2, John Wick's got to get sponsored.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's it. He needs a brand deal.
Meanwhile,
physically and literally.
Meanwhile, the Marquis enlists Mr. Nobody. Mm-hmm. He's like, you tracked John Wick before. Now I need you to kill John Wick.
And he's like, not for free, bud. Let me get some money in my bank account.
How do you like this knife in your hand?
Yeah. And he said, you know how I know what you're going to do?
Youch.
Yeah, either you're going to pull the knife out of the table or you're going to pull your hand out from the knife. I was like, ooh. And then he said, I'm about that life. See? Nobody's messing around in this movie.
Yeah.
He pulls his hand from the knife in a gruesome scene, and he's just like, all right, well, now you're going to put more money in my account because you're messing with me.
And John Wick gets to the group, and he's like, let me in your family. And she's like, kill this other guy. Kill Scott Adkins first.
Kill Scott Adkins, and I'll consider it.
So, again...
He's escorted by the spoiler alert, best NPC in this movie, Klaus.
He is Klaus. We get to a nightclub.
Yep.
Scott Adkins is there. Unrecognizable as Scott Adkins.
And then lo and behold, Donnie Yen shows up. Cool. And then Mr. Nobody shows up. Mr. Nobody's just like, I got John Wick in my sights.
And he's like, well, kill him.
And he's just like, we'll raise my price now.
That's all Mr. Nobody ever does in this movie.
he just wants the price raised.
So they all go in, all our characters meet.
And if you didn't think this is the most tense card action since Casino Royale.
Scott Adkins is like, well...
No, do the accent, though.
You want to kill me, he wants to kill you. We all want to kill each other.
This is quite the conundrum.
You told me not to do the accent. And then
I said do the accent.
Oh, I think you said don't do the accent.
No, do the accent. It's much funnier, though.
He wants to kill you. You want to kill me. We all want to kill each other. Let's play cards.
He didn't say that, but it would have been funnier if he said that.
This is John Wick's answer to the Penguin.
Yep. Oh, exactly.
So they play a card game, and lo and behold, scumbag Scott Adkins, has the game rigged. So unfold massive action sequence 2, which goes on for a while.
Yeah, these action sequences are prolonged.
So we get our 3 main, our protagonists and then our 2 antagonists, I guess, team up reluctantly to get out of there. Mm-hmm. John Wick fights Scott Adkins.
Chasing him through a nightclub again, because we got to pay homage to the other movies, so he's chasing him through the nightclub.
John takes a beating.
Oh my, he gets thrown off the ledge and just gets up. And then, I love the part where, like, they're just boxing, and then, like, Scott, he throws that 3-punch combo, and I'm like, are you character actor Scott Adkins?
3-punch combo and a wheel kick, and I'm like, whoa.
Wait, yeah, you're not the Penguin. You're not the pseudonym for the Penguin. Wait a minute. And it's on just hand-to-hand action. He's running away from him. And then they get down to, like, the water sequence, like, where the water's falling in the club. I love how nobody realizes that there's assassins. That's what the universe, that's exactly what be aware of what your universe is. There's no cops around. There's nothing around. No. There's just assassins running around everywhere.
John Wick beats him to death.
He drops him off a ledge, and then he snaps his neck. And I'm like, this is cinema. This is it.
And he takes the little reward, the little trophy, the gold teeth out of his mouth. And then Mr. Nobody's lining John Wick with his old school Winchester repeater.
Yep.
I love that everyone in this universe has a gimmick.
Yep, they got a gimmick or a special weapon that they use. Remember the simplicity of it just being a sniper for Willem Dafoe, and now we're at the point where it's like just rail guns and dragon breath fire guns. Like,
I turned into both Bucky and Sam from Captain America Civil War. What the hell is that? Everyone's got a gimmick now.
He's got a gimmick now.
So that's what, yeah, because Mr. Nobody has his repeater rifle. He's got a dog. Donnie Yen's got his cane and his blind thing going on. John Wick's got his pistols.
I was going to say John Wick has Winston, but...
John Wick also has Winston, but he has pistols.
Yeah.
So everyone's got a gimmick. It's pretty good. Then Donnie Yen's like, don't kill John Wick. I killed John Wick.
Yep. And then...
Mr. Nobody's like, all right.
Yep, and then we're getting to the end of the second act, and he goes back, and they're just like, all right, well, now you got your crest, and now we're gonna set up the thing. So
Yeah,
Winston meets
the Marquis,
and the Marquis just like, I hate the old ways.
Well, yeah, Winston goes, John Wick
Had
challenges...
the longest walk in cinematic history.
Amazing. He challenges John Wick, or he challenges the Marquis on John Wick's behalf, and the Marquis like, this is dumb.
But I'll do it, though.
Old rules are dumb.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown's there.
Clancy Brown's in this movie.
As, like, the adjudicator.
Exactly.
He's just there to explain
He's
the
just
old
the
ways.
watcher, essentially.
Yeah, he's like, you gotta follow the rules, Marquis.
That was a great impression of Clancy Brown.
Them's are the rules, he says. And then Winston goes, oh, so I'm, and the Marquis like, by the way, if you do this, you're John Wick's second in this, and whatever happens to the champion also happens to the second. And Winston's like, ugh.
Yeah. But I accept because John Wick has that dog. He literally and metaphorically has that dog in him. So.
And he's like, yeah, John Wick wins. He gets his freedom. He gets out of the life. And Marquis like, what do you get out of it? And he's like, you rebuild the Continental in New York. You reinstate me as the man in charge.
When you ask me what my favorite lore building moment, that's by far it. Is that
you could just ask for anything.
You can ask for anything. It's basically just a genie pot.
The Marquis accepts terms, and then we have a nice little meeting between John Wick and the Marquis.
Yep.
They flip cards to establish the rules of the duel.
Exactly.
I don't understand how any of this works.
It doesn't matter. So the rules are the location, the weapons,
like you both, I guess,
the time.
From what I understand, what I got out of this scene is you both negotiate
a
thing that you want,
right, yep.
And then you flip cards,
and whoever has the higher number gets the thing.
Yep. Unless you both agree on a thing, in which case there's no flipping of the cards.
Right. So it was Sunrise.
Great.
The Marquis picked Sunrise, and he got his. John Wick picks...
guns.
No, well, he picked... Where was the place? I forget what the place was.
The church.
Yeah, the church. There's an actual name because it's a real church, but we forget what it is.
It's French.
Yeah, it's French.
It's not Notre Dame.
No, it isn't.
It's the other famous
down the
church
road.
in France.
And then he's just... I love the... Oh, that was my favorite part. Weapons, gentlemen. Blades. Guns.
Or he says pistols.
He said pistols. And I was like, this is it. This is great.
They flip the card, it's guns.
Yep.
And then that tricky Marquis has one more trick up his sleeve.
Yep.
He does the Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. He names a champion in his stead. Of course, it's Donnie Yen.
Why didn't John Wick pick Winston?
Why would you pick a blind man in a gun shooting contest?
Because he's like that.
I also like the bit where the Clancy Brown's reading the terms of like what everyone's agreed to, and he reads what Winston wanted, and John Wick was like, you son of a bitch. And Winston's like,
yeah, it is what it is.
While I'm here,
yeah, might as well get mine.
You're John Wick. I gotta ask for what I can get, man.
I could ask for $1 billion and you would have got it for me.
And then it's kind of on. It's John Wick's last night in Paris, literally and metaphorically.
Oh my! This sequence is incredible. So the discernible sequences are the Osaka hotel, and then it's the nightclub, and then this is the penultimate one.
So before
there's like 3 discernible sequences inside of this own sequence.
We're like 45 minutes into this, and we haven't mentioned the Bowery King. Lawrence Fishburne is back.
Oh my god, yeah, he is back.
John
Wick.
He brings just a different energy.
Oh my god,
it's
the great. Oh, it's so good.
So he arrives in Paris, and he's like. He's always got a quip. He's always like, you always got to be dressed for your wedding or your funeral.
Or your funeral.
Gives him some great exposition.
I mean, you just love to see him back, because I talk about John Wick revolutionizing, The Matrix was one of it was the major one for the 2000s, so.
So he gives John a new suit, a new gun that he went into the
Oh my God.
incredible detail.
That gun
about.
got 3 minutes of dialogue. I was like, this is great.
And then those pesky radio DJs are back.
Oh my God.
Because the marquee.
I love this universe so freaking much. Because, like I said, the first one's normal. Like, the first one's like a normal movie. And that's
So the
like,
marquee-
there's just like this radio tower station of like all these women walking around in like this like satire, like, realm, and like they just are like flipping radio stations that are just tuned to assassins, and they're just like, well, John Wick's on the board for now, and the price of the whole movie it was 14 million, and it's 20 million, then it's 25 million or 26 million, and then it's 40 million, and everybody's just like, well, I can use $40 million. So every assassin in Europe tries to go same thing as 3, but even worse this time,
because this is the Marquis's plan. The Marquis, because the rule of the duel is if you don't show up at the time
at sunrise,
you lose.
Yep.
So the Marquis is like, well, John Wick is not going to even make it to the church, so it doesn't matter, because watch this. And so obviously the Marquis kind of gives away the fact that John Wick's in Paris. And yeah, like you said, it's on. The radio DJs call up the assassin radio.
I love the way that this fight this fight reminds me of Mission Impossible Fallout, the sequence where it was, it started with, remember when the cop pulls up and the cop looks and Henry Cavill's like, walk away, and she calls it in, and then the sequence it goes, and like, solid action sequence, and then it divulges more, and it keeps diving and diving deeper. That's exactly what this fight does times a little bit, because it just starts with the cars pull up, and it's just like he's walking in the street, and then people just start standing up, and then gunfire starts, and it's just like it's happening, and then they get to the famous circle in France.
Yeah, the Arc de... I can't remember the name.
The
of
Arc
it.
de France. That's not it.
The Roundabout Les France.
Yep.
I just love how that whole sequence started, where like he's walking across the street, and then like he looks, and he's like, oh.
And then a car's just coming 80 miles per hour. He gets hit by he gets hit by like 14 cars in this sequence. There's no joke. Like he's getting hit by cars every other second, and like just gets up.
Yeah.
Chidi shows up, obviously. Yeah. He's getting hit by cars. That's like, I'm thinking about the sequences in the movie, and I'm like, this has to be the best sequence in the movie, right? And so this is part 1 of 3 in this sequence, right? Or in this prolonged penultimate sequence before the finale. Yeah. So he's there, and like it just starts popping off. Everybody starts showing up. Mr. Nobody shows up with the railgun. He's there
with the dog.
With the dog. The dog attacks people. Like he's got a just straight up attack dog. So yeah, it's going off.
Had me nervous for that dog the entire movie.
I thought the dog was gonna get shot. So they're in the circle, it's popping off, and boom, he's able to get out. That sequence is incredible. There's, like I said, a lot of one takes in that sequence. All right, cool. Oof. And then we get into possibly
the hotel sequence.
Hotel sequence. So he gets into this abandoned hotel, and then the camera just starts panning up, and it pans up until it's a God's eye view, and then it's an unbroken shot of great Chekhov's gun screenwriting. Make sure the thing pays off. So one of the assassins, when
the dragon's breath shotgun,
the woman's over the radio saying, "Go after John Wick." One of them's got dragon's breath and the shotgun shells. So he takes it, and then he's just an overhead shot of him just clearing out the it's like a Wes Anderson action movie.
If you guys have ever seen the old school Grand Theft Auto games,
oh yeah, yep,
that they're all top down action, that's what this is shot in. It's crazy.
It's nuts. It's gorgeous the way this looks.
And like Mr. Nobody's there. So like just while John Wick's doing his bit, like you just see the dog flying like across the screen.
You see him in the background of killing some guys that are trying to get to him, and then they meet each other. They're fighting, so he's like, "All right, well, the Marquis," and the Marquis on the phone this entire time, and he's just like, I love how he answers the phone. He's just, "What?" He's just like, "We want to raise the price," and then he's just like, "Yeah, that's what I asked the first time." He's like, "All right, $40 million," and he's like, "All right, I'll kill. Okay, I'll do it." God, and then it's on, and then they go to. They're fighting each other. Great fight. The fight sequence, I can't say enough. Like, it's dumb how good they are.
Yeah.
So they get to fighting each other, and then John Wick's a simp for dogs. So big bad henchman guy. He's been at war with this dog for like the entire movie. Yep.
So he's got the dog dead to rights, and I'm like, oh no, they're gonna do John Wick 1 again. And then, like you said, John Wick would rather die than let someone else kill a dog. So he shoots Chibi off a balcony, and then that's when it finally clicks with Mr. Nobody, like, he just saved my dog.
Yeah.
John Wick's not a bad guy. I think I should help John Wick. So yeah, and we get to the final leg of this marathon sprint. So he gets to the world's longest staircase.
Yeah.
To the church.
122 steps.
The Marquis is there. Or not there, but he's at the church. He's waiting like...
They're just sitting there like this is just normal activity
They hear
in
people
life.
like dying.
And everybody's just sitting there just drinking tea. Like everything's cool.
Yeah, the Marquis is like, I don't know, John Wick might not make it. So he's battling up the stairs. And then... he meets, big bad henchman guy. He's not dead yet. So John Wick meets him at the top of the stairs, and this guy knocks John Wick down the first set of 100 stairs, and then John Wick lands on the ground, and you're like, ooh, that hurt. And then he proceeds to kick John Wick down the second 100 bit of stairs.
And we had and the theater was pretty solid. It was relatively solid show out, and we were nervous because we were the only people in there. And then the second the movie time started, 12 people walked in there. We're like, good on you, cinema. And then when that sequence happened, everybody's like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
And then everyone started laughing because that had to have been played for laughs, right? That had to have been a bit.
But I'll respect it in this movie
because it's I felt like I was watching a Simpsons cartoon. This guy is just barreling down, and they never cut away. He just goes down 100 sets of stairs.
So he gets to the bottom, and then he looks up, and Donnie Yen's like, "I'll help you,
come on, John,
brother."
Yeah. Which
they also had a really good scene before this whole act, or before the whole third act, big time action sequences started where they all cards on the table I'm gonna have to kill you, John, but at least we can sit in this church and bury ourselves before we can mentally and metaphorically bury ourselves before we have to physically bury ourselves. So.
Yeah. But then they team up one last time, side by side.
Donnie Yen's the best. He's
so
freaking good.
He's
at what he does.
Fully unleashed at this point, because in the Osaka sequence, he's not really killing people.
No,
he's beating them to death or beating them. But now he's just full on. So he's unsheathed the samurai sword, and then they keep battling their way up the stairs. Mr. Nobody shows up once again to close off the conflict between dog and big henchman guy.
Yep.
Because that was the true conflict of this movie.
When you ask me what my favorite line is, it's just gonna be nuts.
Nuts. Yep. So the dog he goes after the nuts, and then Mr. Nobody, cold as hell, walks up and puts the repeater up to my man's head, and he's like, "You hit my puppy." Bang! Shoots him. Dog pees on him. Great. And then...
it's on.
Yeah, because I love how John Wick is or Donnie Yen goes, "What time is the sunrise?" John Wick's like...
About 2-3 minutes.
Donnie Yen's like, "Well, you better get a move on then, John Wick." He makes it. They both make it. And the Marquis is like,
yeah,
John Wick, I hate you so much. And Winston's like, whew.
Yeah, Winston doesn't say any dialogue, but he's just looking around. He's like, uh-oh.
Oh, man, thank God. And then Clancy Brown's like, all right, good. Everyone's here. Let's have a duel. And then, I don't know why I didn't think it was going to be old-timey dueling pistols.
Yeah, you thought it was going to be Viper pistols that John had? No, it's revolvers from Red Dead Redemption 2.
It's 1770 Aaron Burr style dueling pistols. Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton style dueling pistols.
Yep.
30 paces, take your 30 paces, and then you fire.
No. 30 paces.
30 paces, and then after the first person shoots, and then 10 more paces forward until someone's died. That's how we do this.
Yep. So first one, John Nick's.
They wing each other.
Yep. Oh, it's all right.
And then John Wick's. Well, before that, John Wick's like, "Any advice?" Because Marquis, he's like.
Their seconds go up to them and deliver them what they need, and then man, it's the greatest thing because he's just the Marquis goes to Donnie Yen, and he's just like, remember your daughter, F off.
Yeah. And
then Winston goes to John, he's just like, have any advice? Have fun out there.
Have fun out there, John. Yeah, so they wing each other, so 10 paces forward, they wing each other again, and it's getting pretty brutal now, and then we're within the last 10 paces, so they're basically you can't miss. They raise their fire, bang, John Wick goes down, and you're like, oh no, John Wick went down. And then the Marquis, because he can't help himself, is like, I want the final shot.
So he takes the gun right out of his hand. Because there's no rules in this rule.
Well, he's technically the...
True. He's like, I want to take my title back.
Well, he says, I want the coup de grace, which is like the final blow. So, and it's his right, I guess, as the technical challenger. Like, he can do that. And then Winston's like, you done goofed, son. And he's like, he never fired his gun. And then Keanu Reeves summons all of the acting, and he goes, consequences. Bang! Shoots Bill Skarsgård right in the face.
Oh, the look he gives right before he gets murked is amazing,
it's classic villain, like, oh no! Yep. Kabang!
I don't know why I thought about, I don't know why that brought me to, why can't I think of Die Hard, the first one? I just, in my mind, thought about that when that happened.
Die Hard, yeah.
So.
And kablam goes the text on the screen.
Yep.
When John Wick shoots Bill Skarsgård with the old-timey dueling pistol. And that's it. He wraps him up, packs him up. And then John Wick's like, Winston, I would like to go home. And Winston's like, I don't think you're going home, John.
Yep.
If you are going home, you're going home in a box.
Yep.
Because you don't look so good.
Yep. Mr. Winston, I don't feel so good.
John Wick sits down on the steps.
What a beautiful sunrise.
Yeah, it is. And John Wick, he's thinking of his wife because they have this. I guess I'm going to step on what my favorite moment is, and it's that moment where the Bowery King, Winston, and John Wick are talking about what they want on their tombstones. And the Bowery King was like, "Long live the king, baby! I'm Lawrence Fishburne." Like Winston and John Wick both have like these touching things, like because Winston wanted to remember Lance Reddick's character with his tombstone, and then Lawrence Fishburne's like, "Long live the king," and then John Wick's like, "Loving husband."
Loving husband. What? If I die, I want loving husband
written on mine. Lawrence Fishburne's like, nah, man, you killed the mood, John Wick. I was trying to be fun and magnanimous. And then, so John Wick's remembering his wife, and then he just kind of he does the baby hurdle on the steps.
Yep.
And then cut to New York. Winston and Lawrence Fishburne are there looking over the loving husband, the grave of John and Helen Wick.
Yep. That's it.
John Wick's dead.
John Wick died.
Or did he? Or did this movie make too much money?
Exactly, this movie made too much money.
And then, guess what we got for the first time ever? A post-credit scene.
There's a post-credit scene. And like I said, well, if The Last of Us taught me anything, the games... Well, if it isn't the consequences for my actions. So, because Akira is such a mysterious but cool character, and her father is Mr. Sonata, then she, of course, will probably get her versus Donnie Yen spinoff, which will be amazing. Yeah,
so Donnie Yen returns...
Which assume they're going to team up, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Returns back to his daughter, who he's cared for this entire time.
Ooh, that story could be cool. Because he's got his own daughter that isn't in this life, but she is in this life. That would be kind of cool.
She's playing the violin in the street, and he's come to bring her flowers, like, we're free, and then Akira runs up on him with a knife, and then cut to black, and we don't know what happens.
Yep.
Did he kill her? Did she kill him? Did they shake hands? Did they have a frappuccino together? Who's to say? We won't know. And that's it. That's John Wick Chapter 4. It was really, really great.
Yeah.
It's a thrill ride. Man, it's just a great modern action movie.
It's again, one thing that I love about franchises when they don't get complacent, but on the inverse, they get, they double down and they become smarter, they become more efficient on their action, and they, get innovative with it too. And Mission Impossible, I've spoken in droves about how I think that, in my opinion, is still the best example, but this might be tied with it now of Fallout of the sequel trilogy to the original trilogy for Mission Impossible being with the crux being Fallout being so incredible, understanding we need to make sure this is, because we're in a time where there's other action movies that do not even have close to the same amount of good action in these movies, but are gonna beat us time in and time out. And now this is a glimmer of hope of are we getting back? Are we getting back to the cinema? I don't know, man. We're getting a Wes Anderson movie, a Martin Scorsese movie. We just got, we're getting two major action movies that aren't Marvel, DC, or Star Wars. Cinema's healing.
Yeah, and I love I love how the people making these John Wick movies haven't gotten complacent.
Not only have they not gotten complacent, they're also, like I said earlier, they're like the people that you call now if you want modern action, you call them.
You know, they went into this and asked themselves, how do we one up what we did in the last one? And I mean, that top-down action sequence in the hotel is a perfect example. Like, just constant one-upsmanship. And now this John Wick thing is in full force, its own cinematic universe. We're getting a Continental spin-off that's coming to Peacock in September.
Yep, with the ballerina, right?
The ballerina with Anna Armas. Yep.
That's probably going to go crazy.
Yep. The Continental is going to be a prequel. It's going to be set in the 1970s, revolving around Winston and Lance Reddick's character that are going to be awesome. Recast. Obviously, both those characters will be recast as younger characters, and then we're probably going to get a spin-off with
who do you
Akira.
want to see play them? I know who I would see play a young Lance Reddick's character, and that'd be Yahya Abdul Mateen. Would be awesome. I think he could physically, like, I love this idea that, like, it's like the old wise, like, sage character, side character, Alfred character in their past life being just absolute tanks of people and could kill anything that they want to. So I think that would be cool.
Young Ian McShane.
I don't know who would play him, but
you need someone that's British,
but suave, but like could play also physical. That would be. This is gonna get interesting. Could Richard Madden do something like that?
Oh,
I feel like Richard Madden could do that.
Andrew Garfield.
That would be awesome. That would be so cool.
Yeah, so that's super cool. And then, I mean, presumably, we're probably going to do something with Akira and Donnie Yen's character. And then, who knows what the future holds for John Wick himself.
I think this movie's going to get a sequel. I think this movie did. I think they didn't think it was going to do this well. Like,
yeah.
Like, this movie's making money. There's people going to see it. People are, like we said with Creed 3, people are talking about the movie, like, after the movie's out. It's good to... It's nice. Like, obviously, we built this whole thing that we do upon these fandom movies, but it's so cool that, like, these non-fandom... Like, just how it was before the MCU was here, like... These movies are getting so much credibility, and like even other, like, this Air movie's coming out, it's getting critically acclaimed right now. Like, it's awesome. This is where we're at. So
let's give out some awards.
I love this part.
You start this time.
All right, so I'll go. What's your favorite set in this movie? I added a couple to accommodate for this movie.
Set. I really love the Osaka Continental.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one to beat. It's so tough. It's got levels. It's got levels to it. It's very. I love when your set feels like a character, and it does a great job of that. Like it's got a lot of building to do because we already are familiar with the Continental too, and then having your characters bounce
That's
off.
How big it feels.
Yep, it feels. The place feels
like
massive.
These rooms.
It has like a ambiance to it too. But just the set design in this is just incredible.
Yeah, I love the Osaka Continental. I love the nightclub.
The nightclub's amazing
in Germany.
Yep,
I love that. That was really great. The set design in this movie is really really incredible. Funniest moment.
Oh, this movie's funny.
It is funny, but I mean...
I think it's the Donnie Yen sequence, a part of the Osaka part, and I just think it's just the fact that he's just sitting there drinking the bowl of soup, and Chidi's just like, hey, can you get to work, man? He's like, ugh, all right. The doorbell thing is hilarious. So this guy he's putting sensory doorbells, so like when people walk by, it's just a doorbell sound, and then he just kills them immediately. It's great.
For me, it's him falling down the stairs.
Oh my god, yeah. What a bit. That's what they need to add to the Oscars best bit.
It's no joke, like 3 minutes of him just falling down this massive set of stairs.
It's incredible.
At like a really like important part of the movie. Mm-hmm. It's like there's like 20 minutes left, and they spend like 3 minutes of him falling down the stairs.
Oh, it's so
good. It's so good. You have here best heat check performance.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah. It's either him or it's Scott Adkins.
Yeah. Oh, Scott. Ooh. All right, so non-physical, easily Lawrence Fishburne. Physical, it's Scott Adkins.
Lawrence Fishburne.
It was just
operating on a totally different frequency.
It's what I wish Bill Murray was in Ant-Man Quantumania.
That's a
It's
great
exactly what Lawrence Fishburne was here.
He's so, like, the Bowery King.
The efficiency is you know, like the player efficiency in the NBA. He had like a plus 30, like plus minus.
The Bowery King is so. He's what I love him the most about this universe. Mm-hmm. Like, he's so, like, he's like a cartoon. He's like an anime character. He's like so, like, he's called the Bowery King. Like, he's got this weird little, like, network of
homeless people that are also assassins. You know what they say? Us homeless people got to stick together. This guy's amazing.
Lawrence Fishburne. And then, Scott Adkins is I just didn't expect him to be...
Yeah. This is what I call a conundrum.
When he started running from him, I'm like, oh, he's just going to be like goofy, running away, fat guy.
And then he throws... It was when he hit... It was like that 5-punch combo he gave John. I said...
Did he hit him with that spin kick?
Yeah, I was just like, wait a minute. The Penguin could never.
Scott Adkins, also the mouthless Deadpool from Wolverine Origins, which is pretty great.
Yep.
What else we got here? We have... best NPC.
3, you ready?
Are we have the same one?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, because it's...
You ready?
Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
Klaus.
Yeah.
I am Klaus. He says it twice, and that's it. That's his whole thing for the entire movie.
My runner-up for that was the Elder.
Oh, my God.
Because he had big... just quests.
This is a video game. This movie is a video game.
He's got his little setup in the desert.
Yep.
Where he's just sitting there and he's like, John Wick, I'm here to give you your mission. And John Wick just he goes full Grand Theft Auto and just shoots the Elder.
Yep.
He's like, what if I just killed you, actually? Best exposition dump?
Oh, I mean, same thing. You ready? 3, 2, 1. The Viper.
Yeah, the Viper.
The Viper
Lawrence
gun.
Fishburne again.
Just describes a gun in the most immaculate way you could think of.
Again, they dedicate like 3 minutes to him, like, explaining what the gun does, how many rounds it holds.
It's like adaptive rounds that you can pick up and like
ambidextrous grip.
Ambidextrous, what is it? Ambidextrous safety on each side. Like, I've never wanted a gun so bad, but I need this.
I'm like, damn, that gun can kill people.
Yeah, this gun's gonna do the gunning.
Let's see, what else can we cover here? I want to save. There's one that I usually throw in the middle here, but I'm saving it to the end for this particular movie. Best source material callback.
Oh my God. You didn't think we were going to find source material in John Wick, but once your universe gets this deep, it's the idea of like the duels just being able to be like, it's obviously the table getting, like the lore of the table getting deeper, but it's specifically the fact that like there's no rules to the rules. Like they just are picking whatever the heck they want.
It's this Crusader-esque nature to the table that I'm starting to get very interested in.
Like I told you, here's my hope for the table, right? Because I think we're gonna get a John Wick 5, and I hope that's it. I hope they make John Wick 5 and like this is it. Like this is the last one. I was telling you before we hopped on, I hope the table is like just the most prolific of actors in Hollywood. I hope it's like I hope it's like Al Pacino, Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks is there. I don't know, get freaking Francis McDormand. Like, I hope it's just the craziest litany of like 10 actors in there of like these all-time actors. Ian McKellen's there. Just like absolutely nuts. Just actors sitting there.
Yeah, I do enjoy this. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Assassin's Creed games, but there's a very like Templar nature to the table where like they operate in the shadows and they run everything. I mean, my favorite source material comeback is just the DJ women. Just being like,
I love it.
Kill John Wick for $40 million, and then like 100 people are just in the streets trying to kill John Wick. I love this universe. It's so dumb, but it's awesome. Let's see. You have best 1v1 here. That's a great one.
I had to put this in there. What's yours? You go first.
I really like... Man, it's actually pretty tough to pick one. I think I like the first Kane Wick conversation.
Yeah, it's great. It is really great. It's the perfect top off to John clearing out the room, and I love. And again, the set design is so incredible in here, where it's like. It's aware of what happened before. Like there's stuff shattered everywhere where they're starting to go to a fight. This is what
I was talking to you about before when I was thinking about what you said about the final fight in Ant-Man, not being aware of like the space in which the fight's taking place. This is the fight scene that made me realize, like, understand like your point, like because this fight, like they understood the space. You know, they it doesn't feel inconsistent. It doesn't feel incoherent.
This fight gave me a lot of the same feel. I mean, obviously, I'm pulling one of the greatest action fights of all time, but this fight gave me a lot from the mirror scene and Enter the Dragon. It kind of gave me that same feeling of like the spatial. I mean, that is it's the pinnacle of spatial awareness in that fight, and the innovative way you can use that spatial awareness. But that the fight in this is just like they're clearing out the room on both ends. Like Donnie's in there doing his thing, and then John's in there doing his thing. And then you get to the two of them fighting. There's destruction all around them too. But again, just it's a little piece of like, you dead, John? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just understanding that. And I mean, again, we're talking about two different universes and where one's priority lays and where another one lays. So
yeah, but that one stands out to me, and it's also cool because like I feel like the whole conceit of this movie was built around like, oh, Donnie Yen's gonna fight John Wick, and then they do it in the first act, and you're like, oh, here we go, it's on, like we're doing this now. So I thought that was very cool. Let's see what else we got here. Favorite line?
This is tough. They were spitting some bars. You know what the lines in this movie reminded me of? It's like when somebody can't develop the entire dialogue at once. So like they just in their phone in the moment when they think about a cool line to put in a movie, they just wrote it down. That's the entirety of this movie. I think my favorite line is when he talks about like, oh, what does Donnie Yen say to him at the end of the movie? He says something about like a dead man's it's around about like a dead man's like purgatory is like life, and a person that wants to live's purgatory is death. I thought that line was hard.
I need a gun.
I need a gun. You ready, John? Yeah.
I like the little dialogue exchange that him and Donnie Yen have in the church when he goes, "You saying your goodbyes," and John Wick's saying hello. And then Kane goes, "You think your wife can hear you?" And John Wick goes, "No." And Kane goes, "Why bother?" And then John Wick goes, "Maybe I'm wrong." And I was like, "Damn!" Like there's some.
Yeah, there was like 2 moments in this movie of some depth.
Yeah, so that was good. I just like the Bowery King being like, "No one, not even you, can kill everyone." And I'm like, have you seen these movies?
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne. He can kill everyone, actually. Your favorite shot?
It should be the shot of John with the tree, like when they're at the Osaka hotel. That shot. There's a litany of this movie's actually shot particularly well in terms of like, because I feel like the first 2 still had that little bit of that indie feel to it. Then the third one, you get higher budget, but like this one felt like some cinema was being had at some points. I was like, oh, okay. It could be in that Germany sequence in the nightclub. There was a lot of great silhouetting done in there. I just, for nostalgia purposes, I have to do the fact that they called back to the original Matrix when he's walking into the hotel, and they do when he stops his car in the beginning of the first Matrix with the rain coming down. I could not do that.
Yeah, I like that ending shot of him with the.
Ooh! There's a really good shot where he's walking down the stairs, where he's coming into I think this is when he first arrives in Germany. It's like he's silhouetted and the smoke's coming out, and he's walking down the stairs. I'm like, people took some time into the cinematography in this movie.
I like the final shot of him on the stairs at the sunrise. But I will say probably my favorite shot, just like that got me amped, was the side by him and Donnie Yen side by side with the stairs kind of splitting them.
I was like, in my head, I was just like, it's like one of the staple action actors of the West and one of the staple action actors of the East. I was like, this is everything I've ever needed in my life.
That was so freaking cool.
There's also a really good shot of when we talk like shots aren't sometimes frames, like shots are continuous. So the shot going into the Devil's Breath sequence, which is probably spoiling something for us, but it's just when the camera starts tilting up, and I'm like, it's gotta stop surely, right? And then it gets up, and I'm like, what are we about to do? And then it got into some action.
And I've been waiting. Man, your favorite moment or scene?
I mean, come on, man. it shouldn't be this, but is it the card game into the
It's very good.
The card game straight into the Germany nightclub sequence is immaculate because
really
you're
great.
tense from the card game, and then it's just on. Like it's also Scott Adkins' line delivery too. Like it's great, and then it's just, but oh man. This is like the worst movie to have to do this to me too. So, I will say probably, what's my favorite moment in this movie, man? So I guess let's do this because we're gonna do action sequence. Let's just do maybe a non-action part of this movie. I actually do like the sequence where John meets Winston after they bury Lance Reddick's character. I do like that sequence. I just like the way it's shot. I think that's pretty nice too. So.
I like I talked about earlier. I like the boat. They're on the boat and they're talking about what they want written on their tombstones. Because I'm like, oh, look at this movie doing a thing, like an emotional thing.
Right.
That's not a dog being burned.
Right.
Like this is nice. I just love like neither Winston nor the Bowery King like expect John to like say anything.
Yep.
And then he goes, "Loving husband," and they're like, "Huh?"
Maybe Baba Yaga does have a soul.
So that's pretty good. And then I'm saving it to the end, so I'm gonna do favorite performance now.
Is it? Okay. I was gonna overcomplicate this, but it's Kane. It's Donnie Yen as Kane.
Yeah.
Physical acting, actual acting, like he's got everything under control. I mean, one of the pinnacles of it's one of the godfathers of this.
Probably mine too, to be honest with you. Keanu Reeves is great. Ian McShane is, I feel like, does the most with the Winston character that he's done in this entire franchise. Bill Skarsgård is great.
Yep.
Clancy Brown is great as just the adjudicator guy who's just like explaining the rules. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's Donnie Yen. He's great.
Yeah, what an addition. I mean, both outside and inside the movie. What an addition to this.
And I thought it could have been a one-off. Like I thought they were just like, oh, Donnie Yen's in this one. You know what I mean? Could
have killed him earlier in the movie if they wanted, but he's like an actual character in this universe.
Like I thought they were gonna like Fast and Furious it. We're like, here's the big antagonist is this A-list actor, and then they get rid of him at the end of the movie or whatever. But he's gonna stick around. Favorite character?
Oh, is that Action Man? Oh no, it's John Wick. It's just the dedication that Keanu Reeves has to this is just unmistakable and amazing. And
iconic, a character that's become iconic over the last 10 years. He has
two, like, you would think that, his first character, Neo from The Matrix, would just be the one. I mean, obviously, it defines his career. One of the most recognizable actions.
I don't know now.
Exactly. Like, this is kind of what has defined. How do you have two of the biggest action characters of all time?
I don't know now, especially like, those Matrix movies came out so long ago. Resurrections, we've talked about in those podcasts. I feel like a lot of people nowadays will associate him with John Wick than Neo, because for those people who may not have been around or were way younger when the Matrix movies came out, they probably saw Matrix Resurrections and were like, oh, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see the hype. But then they see him as John Wick and they're like, yeah. So I don't know now. I think maybe John Wick might be... It's weird, right? Like, this doesn't usually happen with actors where, like, they may have stumbled upon something that eclipses their defining role.
Right.
Like, this doesn't happen often, really. But could be happening to Keanu Reeves. Yep. And then, because obviously this is a John Wick movie, I saved best action sequence for last, because, in all the other movies we like to talk about characters and performances last, but this is a John Wick movie, so we're obviously going to talk about action last. So, best action sequence, or favorite action sequence, I should say.
Why? Well, this is the most difficult one we've ever had to do. That Osaka sequence is just near perfect in terms of action. Every action sequence is so prolonged for the better, because it's like you're getting so much of a good thing. It's like sometimes like you want to end it, but like, oh, we're getting more, and then we're getting more. It's a tie for me between the staircase sequence and the Osaka sequence, because both of those I guess it's a 1A, 1B. I guess 1C would be the staircase, 1B would be the Osaka sequence, and then the best one in this movie is that Dragon's Breath. People are gonna start using that I guarantee you Hollywood's gonna start stealing that for everything.
It's one of those things, man. It's one of those things that, like, you could tell it when you were seeing it that it's gonna become a staple. Like, people are gonna try to replicate that abandoned hotel sequence. Because that's mine. It's absolutely flooring. That, like, it just goes top down.
Right, like I said, like the camera started tilting, and like the camera work just itself is incredible in this movie. And the use of movement and not breaking your camera or breaking the shot to get movement, but when the camera starts lifting, I'm like, uh-oh.
And the fact that you can follow what's happening despite the angle. Mm-hmm. Like, despite the fact that it's top down, you can still see, like, what John's doing. You can still see what Mr. Nobody's doing. You can still see what the dog's doing. Like, you can see what... And it's long.
Yeah, it is.
It's a long sequence of this.
That's one of the best parts about this movie is because the sequences aren't just, like, a tease. Like, everything is full-blown and then some.
They take the roof off, basically, of the place and just let you see all the rooms. Mm-hmm. Like... No joke, like you're watching. It feels like you're watching The Sims. Like, like you're just seeing these characters moving about the room in a very real way, and like you see, nothing's hard to read. Mm-hmm. Like you can see everything that's happening. It's amazing.
And then the fire just.
Yeah, the Dragon's Breath is... I love that touch of making the Dragon's Breath like the weapon of choice.
And using the light to light some of the parts of it, using the Dragon's Breath.
I love that he double taps one of the guys with it.
Yep.
Hits him, boom, he doesn't really light on fire, then he gets him again. Like, Jesus
it's nuts.
Christ.
It's insane.
Yeah, so that's John Wick Chapter 4. Man, really, really great.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
One of those cinematic experiences. I love those. Like an experiences that doesn't feel cheap. This movie doesn't feel. It feels like, and it's like I said. This one's I think is maybe going to do the same thing that the first one did in terms of like the team that was on it. That like everybody's like, okay, well now we know what the standard is, and yeah, this is what in Western hand-to-hand action should look like.
And then I guess we can't really get out of here without talking about Chad Stahelski's next big project, which I am now just infinitely more excited for, and that is the live-action adaptation film of Ghost of Tsushima.
It was that frame where like him and Donnie Yen were kind of off to the left, and I was just like, this. It was. Who are you?
Sonata's character.
Yeah, I was like.
Yes, it was that, and I was like,
I just, my brain like immediately like just like a Raven Baxter. That's so Raven Vision right to Ghost of Tsushima where you're where you're fighting Lord Shimmer at the end of the game.
Yes,
and I'm like, what are you? He's about to do something insane.
He's been very much looking forward to making this movie. He's been very complimentary. He's been over the moon. Kind of complimentary about what The Last of Us did, saying like the bar has officially like been raised now for like what these video game adaptations can be. He's talked about in the past about potentially making this an all Japanese movie with English subtitles, which would be super sick.
That would be amazing.
Kind of making a throwback
Kurosawa movie.
He still isn't sure. He does want to float the idea of making it a black and white Kurosawa-esque film. I think I'd rather see it in color just because I think the visuals of that game are...
What you can do is you can do a Logan situation. You can release... Once you...
Sure.
Yeah, you can
Absolutely.
Just... Once the movie gets released, because, it would be really cool if he shoots this on film. I think that would, lend more to that Kurosawa idea. And then, maybe you have the same thing that the game lets you choose. You have the movie in English, and you have the actors speaking in English, and then... What you might do is you might have the movie, like a version of the movie once it's like released on DVD and video streaming, like the Japanese version of the movie with the English subtitles in the black and white. That would be an incredible choice.
I think he's also floated the idea of doing like a Kurosawa sequence in the movie where like it switches to black and white and they do it that way.
Just like the game once you unlock the ghost stance.
Yeah, so I think that would be super cool.
You're going to make me play Ghost of Tsushima when I get home.
It was so hard not to. Like when I got home.
When I got home,
I was like...
The first... it's funny. This is why I love the dynamic between us, because your immediate mind went to like games and like my immediate mind, I just started started on a rabbit hole of the best action sequences in film history.
Yeah.
Like, I was just going through. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I've been doing this whole time. I've been looking at just all like the greatest action sequences in movie history.
Man, seeing that movie and knowing who's doing Ghost of Tsushima, I'm like, my hype is just.
And then you got to do the James Cameron thing of what he did from Avatar 1 to Avatar 2. So now you got the action foundation. Now you got to do some acting. Now you got to do, like, if you get some emotion and some acting, it's like Ghost of Tsushima does that incredibly well.
Yeah.
The game's just, the only thing about Ghost of Tsushima, the middle part of the game is very long, and it's a lot of walk in that middle piece of the game, but you can just tighten all those things up. I want to see the relationship between him and Yuna get explored even more in this. And then he's one of the most, in my opinion, like in the modern day of gaming, he's one of the most interesting protagonists too, because same thing as like Joel in The Last of Us, he has to deal with his morality a lot. Like, that's the crux. It's like an Infamous, like,
And his honor.
It is honor. Like, that's a huge thing. And like, I hope, they talk about culture, like Japanese culture as well. Like, it's a big thing.
And they're going to canonize one of the endings.
They are going to, they're going to supplant one of the endings.
They're going to make one of the endings canon.
You know what's funny? You just talked about that. You know what sequence I have up? I don't understand how life works. You talked about the black and white switch to color. I'm watching the Kill Bill fight from the first one, and then, when she blinks and it goes back to color, and then they get to one of the greatest silhouettes of all time.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I could imagine from that is like, he gets in that enraged state and then it cuts to black and white film and then it's just, he's going crazy.
But just, man, seeing what he did with this John Wick movie, I'm just salivating now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, he's doing Ghost of Tsushima, like, I'm starting to get like that Last of Us feeling again. Like I got when they were like, oh, the creator of Chernobyl's doing The Last of Us.
Excuse me?
I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there's...
It's like you get the right, like, obviously Chernobyl, end of the world experience, for the people that were there, end of the world experience, you get that guy to do The Last of Us, same thing.
Yeah.
The best action in America right now, you get the guy that did that to do that, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, so for those of you who are not familiar with Ghost of Tsushima, I encourage you to familiarize yourself with it, because I think this movie could be really great.
Yeah.
When Chad Stahelski makes it. It's a ways off. Like, we don't even have a cast or anything like that.
Just get the guy that pid Jin Sakai in the game to play Jin Sakai. He's talked about he would do it if he
and get Hiroyuki Sanada to play Lord Shimura.
Oh my god. That would be it would be absolutely perfect if that was the case. Jin!
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for that. Man, John... God, that movie was great.
It was just, I was sitting, like, I had, like, multiple jaw drop moments. I was just like, as somebody that wants to do this, I was like, this is just, it was the same feeling that I had when I watched Dune, but, like, for a different reason, but the same reason. Like, it's somebody doing something, like, that is just the top of the game. And it's just, like, same thing for Avatar, same thing for Top Gun, like, you're watching it and you're like, this is what it should be. Like, you're getting these massive budgets for these movies. Like, this is what it should feel like. But then it even goes further and it's just like, all right, if this is the standard, I got to go even farther. And then you get something like this. So
yeah.
hats off to the director and team for what they were able to pull off. Because it is truthfully, from the bottom of my heart, it is truthfully, like, this is one of the best action movies that I've seen.
Agreed. Totally agreed. That's going to do it for us this week.
I guess instead of the what have you been doing, what's your favorite action movies? Action characters. All right, let's do it like this. Who's your favorite action hero?
Man, I said for the longest time that it was Bruce Willis in Die Hard, because he's just like the everyman action hero. He kind of started that kind of trope of the but man, it's hard not to say John Wick.
Yep.
To be honest, like, maybe it's recency bias, but just they figured it out. Like, they solved the formula, the action movie formula. I feel like this group has solved it.
Yeah, and now everybody tries to use that now.
He's in Fortnite.
Once you're in Fortnite, that's it. You've done it.
You're a legend.
You are a legend.
But I will still say it's probably John McClane, just because, like I said, talk about like foundational Western action heroes. It starts with him.
Yep.
Like, Die Hard started it. So, and just the character's great. The character is great. I love the evolution. I love the goofy evolution of that character also, where like he was like the everyman action hero, and then like by the time he got like to the fourth one, he's like secret agent man, and I'm like, what happened to you, John McClane?
I thought he was just some guy that killed. They thought he was just some random assassin, but he is the assassin.
Yeah.
Mine would have to probably. I mean, I guess it's just because it's funny to say I grew up with this, but it's probably Daniel Craig's Bond. He was. I mean, for the 2010s,
he's a unit.
He was a unit. Like you cannot. But it was the suaveness of which is James Bond. Like I think Daniel Craig understood the brutality, which like
you think
he finally. I mean. Mads Mikkelsen was beating the crap out of him, but yeah, he understood the brutality. He understood the balance between brutality and suaveness, and like what that takes to be James Bond. And then the movie, like the first movie is awesome. Second movie, don't know what happened, and then you get to the third movie, and again, you don't get complacent in a franchise, and then it's just like, oh my god, like Skyfall. It itself is one of the best action movies of all time. That movie is incredible. It's incredible looking. Shout out Roger Deakins for that. But Sam Mendes' direction and Daniel Craig's understanding of the character kind of helps you with that. Favorite action sequence in the movie?
Man, I'm trying to think. You go first, so I marinate on this.
I'm gonna pick. I can't pick between the two, and this is favorite, not best. This is our favorites. I'm gonna go. The street scene in Heat is incredible. What did they say? They used that sequence to show SEALs how to reload a gun because of how credible how Val Kilmer made it. But that sequence is amazing. It's credible action. It's tense. But the most important part about it is it feels real. Like that feels like a straight up gunfight between the LAPD and some robbers. Just so you guys know, there's no GTA 5 without Heat. There's no Michael DeSanta without Heat. So
that's 100% true.
But yeah, that would be mine. And then the other one, I'm gonna go with. I'll probably go with Terminator 2, the opening sequence, not the opening sequence, but it's just the idea that like the biggest, baddest Terminator is now a good guy. And then it just leads into like the trench scene when they're down there when he's riding his bike. Like just kid me loved that sequence. So I think that was probably one of my favorite ones.
I'm going to go, I've thought about this now for the last couple minutes. Neo versus Smith in the subway.
Yep.
From The Matrix. Don't kind of bring it back to Keanu Reeves. Honestly, pick any kind of major action sequence from that first Matrix movie. The rooftop scene where the titular maneuver comes in because people just called it The Matrix when he does the slow motion, like, under the bullets. But the fight scene between him and Smith is spectacular.
Yeah, and because I'm an MCU shill, I'll just also throw in there the Bucky versus Cap hand-to-hand fight because that was the first example of like in this massive cinematic universe that like had its gripes with people was just like, oh, finally we're doing the action, and the action like finally this is straight hand-to-hand, like actors are doing the stuff in there, like that was amazing.
Good. Yeah.
So we did that. Favorite action villain?
Man, there's so I'm gonna go back to Die Hard.
Nice.
Hans.
Yep.
Hans from Die Hard 1, played by the late great.
It's tough not to pick him.
The late great Alan Rickman. It's just he's one of the best. He's proper action movie like hammy, but also menacing.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the one that sticks with me.
I'm gonna pick the T-1000 from Terminator 2.
Yep.
It's just relentless, no let up, no emotion, just all about the mission being done, unkillable, like a credible threat to. And again, it's the idea of Arnold being a good guy in this one, and like that was probably one of the greatest bait and switches in a movie.
100%.
Of like,
oh yeah,
because like when does that happen? Like one of the most famous bad, and it was 8 years later. Like it was 84 to 92. This movie didn't come out, so he just turns to just like get down. I'm like, holy crap! But the T-1000 is just iconic at this point. And I was gonna say the crew from Heat, but I feel like perspective is antagonism versus protagonism, so it's the antithesis. So I can't truthfully say because in their own right they're the protagonists of that story. So yeah. So best action hero or your favorite action hero?
Maverick.
Perfect. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Especially coming off of Top Gun Maverick. That is the sequel.
Did I already say our favorite action hero?
Oh, you might have.
I definitely did, and we just had a discussion.
I thought you said actor at first, the first time.
Oh, I think I did say actor is what we started with. Yeah, we started with actor. Yeah, but this is like the favorite hero.
Yeah. So Maverick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For that's a tough one. That's a tougher one. We talked about it when we did our little piece for Women's History, International Women's Day. If just pulling the nostalgia from me being a kid, it might be Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. I mean, from it's just I loved how broken she was in that. Like, it's immediately a great example of like using your character to set up how broken they are without showing what the heck happened. Like the trauma character of like, she knows everything that's going to happen, but it didn't happen yet. Like it was just incredible when I was a kid. So, it's either going to be that or Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. I think Ethan Hunt's another great one. So, and again, it's just my love for these new age Mission Impossible movies being smart about, how they conduct themselves and having the grandeur of their universe. So it's either going to be Sarah Connor or Ethan Hunt.
Cool.
And then, so we can end it off. What's your favorite action movie?
The Matrix.
Matrix, yep.
Matrix 1.
I had a ball rewatching those for the Resurrections episode.
Perfect blend of action and sci-fi. Talk about just an incredible universe with some really great backstory. It's the Wachowskis did something really special with that. Especially that first one. The second one's not as bad as I think people give it credit for. And then the third one is, And then Resurrections is also, Resurrections had a lot of neat ideas, but just not quite executed well. But that first one is the standard bearer for modern action movies. It did it for a while. That bullet time took over the world in action movies at one point. So, it's The Matrix.
I'm probably going to have to give you like 5. And because I make the rules, I'm going to have to give you 5. Top Gun Maverick is in there.
Yep.
I think it's one of the best movies of the 2020s so far. And I think it's just, again, we've talked enough about that movie. Everybody knows how we feel about it. Heat. Michael Mann's Heat, because in the 90s, that's like, because the 90s was just like, whatever media you find in the 90s is very loud, like very big, because you're trying to double down on what the 80s did, and the 80s was so iconic, and then the 90s is trying to, but like, Michael Mann is a very like, I feel like he's a very on-set, like, realism type of person, too. And I just love the relationship between these two. And again, it's perspective. It's like, that's a really good tale in perspective. Like, who's the true villain in this? Like, there's really no villain in this. Like, are the villain the LAPD or is the villain the bank robbers? Like, we don't know. And
it's like the talent.
And that diner sequence really supplants that. Enter the Dragon. I was absolutely just obscenely obsessed with that movie when I was a kid. That mirror sequence had me in awe. My dad has a huge stack of kung fu movies in there, and that was the one at the top of the stack. And he used to tell me stories about Bruce Lee and like how big Bruce Lee was. He easily also could have been my favorite action actor on there too. That was a very tough one. So you got that. What did I say? Heat, Top Gun, Enter the Dragon, Mission Impossible Fallout is in there for me. I've spoken a lot about that, and once we do our Dead Reckoning Part 1 episode, I'm going to talk about specifically why those movies are just the sequel trilogy, the whole thing, but the sequel trilogy specifically is so incredible. And then my last one will probably have to be Skyfall. I think would round out my 5. It's just taking this, like, one of the most recognizable characters in the entire world, like, and just making them, like, modern. Like, you modernized James Bond. You didn't make him this cheesy guy. You still pay homage to the nostalgia and some of the cheesiness. I think No Time to Die does that by far the best in that franchise, but Skyfall is just... you get Roger Deakins to shoot the movie. That says a lot. Sam Mendes behind the camera. It's the best acted in the entire series as well. And I just think it's this idea that, that you're just it is a woof situation in that movie. Like, you never feel safe that entire movie. You feel on edge that entire movie, and that's a big piece for action, in my opinion. And then fun to throw an honorable mention, because I'm an MCU shill. It's Captain America: Civil War, because in the biggest franchise in the world, that action is one of the parts of it. It is the best action movie in the entire MCU.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Yeah, for sure.
And then last thing we'll leave you with is, if the Oscars are listening, I think it's about time they add. I'm on the wave that people are starting to be uproaring about. I do think it's time that the Oscars needs to add an action stunt coordination category to it's about time. It's like, you watch a movie like this, you're like, how do these people get no recognition for this? Like, they're putting their lives on the line just to entertain us. Like, Top Gun did that. Tom Cruise does that any movie he does. All these Eastern actors are doing this all the time. Like, I feel it's about time that like an action stunt coordination category is included in this.
Yeah, it seems totally reasonable.
I feel like this might be something that's coming.
It's definitely a part of what makes a movie a movie.
Right.
Certain movies, I mean, not every movie has action or stunt sequences, but in Top Gun Maverick got nominated for Best Picture, and it can guarantee it didn't get nominated on the strength of its character work.
Right.
Why did that movie get nominated for Best Picture? Because of the action.
The action was tense.
The action sequences.
It was incredible.
So, yeah,
and
you're right.
We left off so many movies. Like, Mad Max Fury Road is like, in modern action, that's one of the best in there. What else didn't we talk about? We didn't talk about, in the superhero genre, we didn't talk about Logan. I know I said earlier, we didn't talk about Kill Bill. Like, there's so much in here. And, like, not for nothing, like, we didn't talk about, like, say what you will about Fast and Furious. Like, the first one, like, that's, like, again, a massive injection into the action realm. So,
also,
we didn't talk about any of the Asian action movies, like Hero, Seven Samurai. If you want to go back to the Kurosawa days, like Seven Samurai is one of the most revolutionary movies ever. So,
Rush Hour.
What a follow up.
Rush Hour is great, man.
It is great. Edge of Tomorrow in the modern age, that was a big one.
Also, speaking of just action stars doing their own stunts, Jackie Chan.
Oh my God, yeah.
Come on, man.
My fault, Jackie.
His name is Lee, goddammit.
We didn't talk. It's funny that we talked about Keanu Reeves. We didn't even talk about the best Keanu Reeves action movie. You know what it is? It's Point Break.
Come on, man.
I don't know how I even got to watch Point Break like 3 weeks ago. I don't know what situation in my life I was at, but Point Break was on, and I just sat there and watched the whole thing, and I was like, "This is everything." But Jet Li, Speed, yeah.
Another Keanu Reeves. Is Keanu Reeves the best action movie actor ever?
Tom Cruise is somewhere just punching air right now.
Speed, The Matrix,
Taken,
John Wick, Taken.
We didn't even talk about Jason.
Man on Fire.
We didn't even talk about Jason Bourne this whole time.
Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne.
Like, as much as it sounds like I've crapped on Jason Bourne this whole time. No, like, Jason Bourne in its own way revolutionized action. Like, it was this very like mid 2000s like fast paced action. Like, you felt claustrophobic watching those movies in like a good way. For some of it,
man. Just some.
We didn't even talk about like Lord of the Rings. Like, yeah.
I guess that falls more and more. I'm thinking of like
hand to hand,
like kind of goofy, like you know what I mean, like kind of over the top kind of stuff. And Lord of the Rings like falls more into like the fantasy category.
Yeah,
but
we didn't even talk about like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
But I mean, you're right. Lord of the Rings. I talk about the Battle of Helm's Deep, Two Towers sequence all the time. It's maybe the best action sequence in any movie ever. So, yeah, action movies are great, man.
What is the greatest action sequence?
It's that one. It's the Battle of Helm's Deep. It's so good. that sequence is perfect.
Yeah, it's good.
It's Homelander. Homelander just showed up.
Yeah,
it was perfect. Perfect. Down to the last minute detail.
Perfect.
Yeah, man, that sequence, pull that up on YouTube whenever you get a chance. Yeah. That Battle of Helm's Deep is tremendous. Man, that's it, man. Socials.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Don't give our socials to John Wick. He'll find us.
Project
I'm gonna kill you.
He always feels like he's like not sure of what he's saying. I need a gun.
I need a gun. Yeah.
Does he? Do you?
Yeah. I love in that Osaka sequence that, like, all of them are just pulling out, like, you know, non-automatic weapon. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
And, like, I just love, like, all these like actors and, like, you know, side characters are just pulling out, like, you know, bow staffs.
Yes.
And then he just pulls out a gun and, like, he just does the little side cock that he does. And I'm like, oh, it's on. it's on. Like, she gets her bow staff. She does, like, the Hawkeye thing where, like, she unfolds it and then he's just, like, he just pulls the gun out and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
People are gonna... All right, people are dead.
Follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. Follow us on Facebook. New episodes posted every week on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Shazam. Wherever you get your podcasts.
The planet and the app, both of them. You're not on Earth anymore.
Why so blue?
Oh man. They got to get Stephen Lang in the John Wick series. He should be the villain.
He should be the guy that's at the head of the table.
Oh my god. John Wick. John Wick in a bulletproof suit. That's a potent mix. Gives me the goosebumps.
Yeah.
John Wick and a puppy. That's a potent mix.
Now that you said that, yes, he has to be in John Wick.
Say the Instagram. That's a Project Infinite pod.
You said the Instagram.
Perfect.
You did already. Next week is April 5th, 4th. I don't know.
Who knows? Who's to say?
Yeah, we're too early. The week after, I know for sure, is the Mario movie.
Oh yeah, that's. I feel like it's gonna. Remember when we saw Into the Spider-Verse before people knew what that movie was?
Yeah.
Like the potential of it, and it was just there was just kids and parents in there,
yeah.
And it was just the two of us and our two other friends, and we were like, we feel out of place in here.
Yeah.
And then Biggie started placing like we don't feel out of place in here.
So the week after next is the Mario movie, and then I think the week after next we're doing Return of the King.
Correct. Yep, we're gonna go see it, and then.
So next week, I'm not sure.
We'll have some fun. Maybe we'll do something fun.
Yeah,
maybe we'll review Daredevil.
Nothing's ending, right? Nothing's ending?
No.
Mandalorian's not ending yet?
Nope.
All right, good.
We'll find something.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. From me, from the...
Careful. Do it. Just do it, man. Do it.
The Donnie Yen on the podcast.
I'm one with the Force is one with me.
Watch Rogue One. We've talked about that movie on here, but that...
Good stuff.
You want to talk about good Donnie Yen action?
Why did you blindfold me? I am already blind.
That was great. Yeah, next week I'm not sure what the topic is, but until then, we'll see you next week.
Yep, we'll see you at the Continental.
John Wick, my man.
You're supposed to say it. Say the thing so I can say the thing.
All right, we'll see you next week.
No, not that thing.
Oh, which thing?
The thing from the movie from the beginning. I've said it like 8 times already.
About him needing a gun?
No. The first thing he says. Are you ready, John Wick?
Are you ready, John?
Yeah.
I should have said that at the beginning of the podcast.
Actually, that was the best performance. Was just Keanu Reeves giving these just absolutely immaculate line. It's like, you know, the flirting versus harassment thing. It's like Tommy Wiseau's harassment, but Keanu Reeves is flirting.
Consequences. Bang. Kablam.
Kane, you're back. Long time.
It's like they just got like a soundboard. Mm-hmm. They're just pressing buttons, and he's just like lip reading.
Oh, that would have been a perfect homage to like American dubbing of these action movies in the East. Of like if Keanu was saying the right lines, but like the dialogue wasn't matching.
Oh man! All right, guys, we gotta go, man.
We gotta go, man.
We'll see you next week.
Get Jeffrey Wright in the movies too. He just feels right in those. He feels right in like any movie that like just has some lore. His voice just saying the lore is perfect.
He could run like the Boston Continental.
He should be, you know, like the high table should have their own Continental, like in the clouds, and then like he should be the concierge of that Continental.
That'd be great.
I know their Continental's like on the North Pole. Like I don't know where the heck it is, but it's probably gonna be in the craziest place.
Yeah,
like an underwater base. The moon. Oh my god! What if the Continental's on the moon? Roland Emmerich's like, what if the moon wasn't what you thought? No, we're not watching Moonfall, Roland.
Oh man.
Day After Tomorrow came on TV the other day, and like I can't get out of our head that we love Roland Emmerich so much. That guy really hates Earth.
That guy in Day After Tomorrow steps out of the helicopter and instantly freezes to death.
Shoot.
Oh man. All right, that's it. That's all I got. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Peace. I should have said, yeah. I need a gun.
Consequences. Kablam. Bill Skarsgård. Get wrecked.
Oh, they got to get Alex Skarsgård to be the villain of the next. Oh,
no, then it's just Fast and Furious.
Yes, it is.
Because they got
killed my brother.
They got Jason Statham to avenge Luke Evans,
and then they got Jason Momoa, who has an American accent, to avenge his Brazilian father. We got to start videoing these because you just did one of the funniest things ever.
That's what he does in the Fast X trailer. He does this. And
the arms out?
And there's explosions. God. I'm waiting until that movie comes out.
The review for that one is gonna be. We're gonna have to. We're gonna review 10.
It might be a two-parter.
We're gonna review like 23 years of Fast and Furious.
That might be a two-parter. Maybe our first ever two-part review.